Well, you gave me a lot to think about over the week, and I was very excited to have you back today. I read through the material that you left me, and I just had a couple of questions. You left me with some thought just about juicing and so forth, and there were some things in here that talked about, the benefits of doing everything needs to be fresh and immediate.
Yes.
So, and I'm really big into like canning and preserving, and I juice up things and I put them in the fridge. So is that really not the ideal way to do things, or?
Well, if we're talking about juicing now, remember. So in terms of juicing, yes, it's best to have it most immediately. However, that said, I would rather see you drink juice that's a few hours old than not drink it at all.
Right.
So what you could do is, if you put your juice, put it into a ball jar if you're not going to drink it right away, with one of the 2-piece tops. And I see you drink your water out of one. Good girl.
I've been doing it did make a difference. When I started to measure, I did better than I thought I did, because I never really measured it before. But I do a really good job with the water. It gets a little boring sometimes, of course. So I'm sure you can show me some ways to liven
I've
that
got
up
ideas for that. But if you're going to be juicing, just fill that jar up then to the top with juice, and then put the lid on, keep it chilled, and then you can drink it and you'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Because sometimes, for a convenience factor, a lot of the times it's I got to bring out the juicer, and I had juice, and then I got the mess, and so sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of that done ahead of time.
Yes.
Where, I thought I was on the ball with that, and then, reading through, I was like, oh, I have to do that fresh every time.
Yes.
In order to really get the full bang.
In the ideal, if you can do it fresh, good girl, but if not, it's a few hours old. And I've had my juices as much as 12 hours later, so don't stress.
And I've noticed every time we've met, you have your own little drink that you bring with you in your jar, but you never have ice in it. So do you are you drinking everything room temperature? Or are you keeping it in the fridge? Or
it varies. It depends on the time of year and so forth. I usually drink either, I don't put ice in my tea. Usually you see me, I've got a glass of herbal tea. In fact, I've got one. I might go get in a little bit when we get through your kitchen thing. But I don't typically put ice in it, not for any other reason other than it's fine for me to drink it room temperature.
Okay, I didn't know whether that kind of
If you want ice in your water, as long as you're drinking your water, I'm a happy camper.
All right, yes, I'm doing very well with that.
And you said you wanted some ideas about your water, maybe to make it a little bit more exciting?
I put a slice of lemon in it. But
Sure.
I thought, if you're drinking that much water all of the time, you have to have some little things that you're probably doing to it to make it a little more exciting.
I do. Well, let me tell you one that I know, because I know that you do some baking. And I'm sure you use vanilla beans. So you scrape the seeds out of those, and you probably compost or discard your vanilla bean. Put the vanilla bean in a mason jar full of water, screw it on, put it in your fridge overnight, and the next day it tastes like cream soda.
Ooh,
yeah,
I will try that.
And it's calorie free, and there's no sugar, and it's phenomenal. All
right.
Another one, a good one that I really like is slices of cucumber is a very good addition to the water, which sounds like a pretty basic thing, but it's excellent. Also, when you're baking, if you make, for example, oatmeal cookies, you know how you'll take.
My favorite,
yeah, so they're great. I can show you how to make those raw, but when you're soaking the raisins to plump them up before you put them and bake them, the raisin soak water is phenomenal to drink. And what I do sometimes, particularly because you make those maybe in the winter, put a little cinnamon in there, and it's a lovely treat.
Just the soak water, or are you mixing the soak water with some additional water?
Nope, you can however you want it. If it tastes too strong, dilute it. Make it last. And then finally, and then I've got tons, but I'll just give you these few. When you're rehydrating sun-dried tomatoes, if you're going to make a tomato sauce or marinara, or you're going to be using them for another recipe, drink your tomato soak water. Is also phenomenal. If you decide you're not in the mood to drink it, at least give it to...
I'm giving that to my plants.
Plants, there you go. There you go. You know what? Sorry, plants.
Oh, yeah.
She's getting the first.
That's right.
Yeah. So drink that stuff.
I never thought of drinking it myself. The plants love it, but okay.
It's excellent.
Those are good. See, it's about doing and learning and new ways of
and
making
writing
all
it down.
Of these things
Good
exciting.
girl.
Oh yeah, I'm a note taker, a definite note taker. And I think that was pretty much the only thing that I had kind of when I was thinking about when I was reading this stuff.
Okay.
So at this point, though, you'd mentioned you want to go through my kitchen. So
I do.
I'm keeping it real. I've kept it honest.
Good girl.
I'm pretty simple, and like I said, we're not horrible,
Sure.
but we're not perfect. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what you point out and what you're looking for. And you can see I do try to grow a few things and have a fresh environment when we're in here.
That's wonderful. Excellent. Well, what I'd like to do is if you could direct me to the cupboards that primarily have food in them. I realize you've got some dishes and things.
Yeah,
and before we do that, I want to compliment you on one thing. Is this always here?
Yes, this is for, I had to get a special juicer to do the wheatgrass.
Yeah.
And I will admit that's the only thing I am juicing in it though is the wheatgrass.
Okay, and that's fine. We can address that. But my compliments to you is that it's out on the counter. And one of the things that I find with my clients is they're more likely to use equipment if it's accessible. If you've got to get out a ladder and reach up and get into the rafters and pull something down.
I like to see what I have, and I do want the things that I use on a daily basis to have them out. Because you're right. Otherwise, it's just kind of a hassle to.
It's a barrier
that out all of the time.
Yep.
Exactly.
And so I'm all about taking away the barriers. At some point in our time together, we'll do some dehydrating and dehydrating. One to preserve, because I know you do can, and perhaps dehydration is already on your repertoire. But I'll teach you some recipes, and what we'll do is have a dehydrator that you leave out on your counter that you can check and become familiar with that. But we're off to a great start by having the juicer right here on the counter.
I just need a little more to do with it.
Yes, I can help with that.
Make better use of it.
All righty.
Exactly. And then so we have some food back in this cupboard. This is kind of the baking area. I do like to bake. So flours and sugars and that type of stuff is what I have in here.
Okay. And I hats off to you also. I see that you buy in bulk.
Yes.
And that you are all that you're preserving in you're using glass containers. That's excellent. It's a wonderful idea. But the only suggestion I would make with regard to that is to remember to, when you buy new flour, to take the old flour out so that the new flour is at the bottom. Don't just keep putting flour on top of flour, because then down here this will end up being very old.
That's true.
So you're kind of
That's a good tip, because I usually when it's empty I fill it back up, but a lot of times halfway through, so that's a really good.
Yep, it'll keep it fresh. Then you don't have some old things. But this is very nice and neat and organized and very accessible. So hats off to you on that.
Some days better than others, but I made sure I was kind of tidy for you.
And that's okay.
I didn't remove anything, but I did tidy up.
And then I see there's some Bisquick and Jiffy mixes back in.
Yeah, and I primarily use those when we're in a hurry for dinner or something. We need a biscuit or a little shortbread or something. That's primarily the only times that I use that.
Another thought might be to make them yourself from scratch, because I'm sure that you do a better job than any box.
Yes.
And put them in the freezer.
This is a fast, convenient factor. Sometimes when we're in a hurry or it's late at night and that. So, and I think this is probably a step, because I used to buy the frozen, so kind of the middle of the road alternative.
And then up here, the only suggestion I would make in addition to that is to remember that nuts have natural oils in them, and it's a really good idea to keep those refrigerated. So if you're keeping these, and not the chocolate-covered ones, those are already preserved.
How do you know those have chocolate? It's carob, no, it's that's milk chocolate.
When we're off camera, I might have one or two of those. I'm not completely
That's kind of my sweet. When I'm hungry for something sweet, I have a nut, chocolate-covered nut.
So any nuts that haven't been processed or cooked, which is really what we're hoping to do a little bit more of. Not the cooked nuts they tend to be a little bit more rancid. To keep your nuts fresher longer, particularly because you've got quite a volume there, I would keep them either in the refrigerator or the freezer. Either one would work just fine. So for now we're good, but in the future,
up a little cupboard space there.
It will do, exactly. And then would you like to share the refrigerator? Okay. Beautiful. Wow, you're organized and tidy. I'm impressed.
Like I said, some days better than others.
Yes.
I moved the mess to the back.
Good thinking. And I see again you've got the jar for storage.
You know what? I juice a lot of citrus, so I juice it and I put it in the fridge, and then it's ready to use. That was kind of my quest. that's what I do on a regular basis. Like on Sunday, that's my juicing day.
Sure.
But now I have to try to figure out a way to kind of maybe make that a little bit more fresh.
And I can help you with that. Part of it is also the juicer that you're using. There are different juicers that are good at different things, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So
lots of produce
here. Yeah, that's
and not all of it's organic, but a lot of it is. So
and it's in the crisper drawers, and it's organized, so you know what you have, and it's not going to go.
And I deal with it right away when we, I got some of it I'll clean if it stores well that way. Otherwise, it just makes it a lot easier to use if it's ready to go.
And then from the freezer standpoint, I'm going to scoot over here so I can see inside. You've got some frozen fruit. That's a good thing. That's really wonderful for
frozen
smoothies
berries and things. Okay.
And you've got room in here. You could put your nuts in here. I would recommend that, actually. And if you get a good price on things like almonds that can be a little bit expensive, buy them in bulk, keep them in the freezer, realizing that they'll keep for many months.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yep. And whereas if they're kept at room temperature, not quite as much. So.
And a lot of the things, I'm somebody who does like to see what they have. It makes it easier to cook, and I get this is kind of my inspiration sometimes.
Absolutely.
It's like, what do I have there?
It looks great, and in the glass jars, I can't say enough how thrilled I am about that. These we'd want to put in the refrigerator or freezer.
Yep.
These are fine out, and the lentils and everything else is just fine the way that it is.
So you don't eat? Do you eat pastas?
I do not.
And rice? And you don't, do you?
I don't, because I'm a vegan raw foodist, and raw food that's a processed food, so I've tried to avoid processing. If I did, however, if I were to eat pasta, I would eat primarily whole grain and whole wheat. I wouldn't use a white refined pasta, and I would do it with not so often.
Right.
I would also probably take some digestive enzymes, because pasta is not the easiest thing in the world to digest, and especially if you're combining it with a protein product, like if you're
That's probably why you kind of feel a little sluggish after you eat pasta.
Yep, and many times you're having spaghetti and meatballs, so it requires
a lot of things in there.
Yes, a lot of things to slow you down. So, you said you have a pantry.
I do, and then I have a few more things on the back side here.
Okay, very good.
And that'll be the extent of my food. I'm aware of some of the things that aren't.
Okay. Yeah, a couple of things I'm seeing. And thank you for not being defensive about it.
No,
It's
absolutely not.
Some
of this stuff's John's too. Let me point out that he picked out at the store.
And the thing that we want to do when we're buying these types of canned goods is to read labels and to be conscious of exactly how much salt and preservatives and other words for MSG are contained in there. But certainly, I mean, in a pinch, you've got what you've got and so forth. But you'll learn how to make some of these things to substitute. You won't need to be doing that as much. But I know to read labels. There are a few things. I see you like sweets, and honey's a fabulous natural sweetener. This maybe not so much.
No, that was for hot chocolate over the winter. Maddie likes a big fluffy out of the box, so I'm sure there's other alternatives for that too.
Yes, exactly. So again, being conscious of reading our labels, but I'm thrilled to see some homemade preserves.
I try to do as much of that as possible.
Excellent. And then you've got organic almond butter, which is a wonderful thing. I can teach you how to make your own. You've got a cashew butter. That's also very good. Those are nice, versatile products. Those are the kinds of convenience products that will serve you well.
Okay.
Rather than making your own nut butter and then all the obstacles that would create, to have those kinds of things on hand is a really good thing.
So because that's a processed food.
It's
so there are some good processed
absolutely
foods.
Right. And the farther away from being acutely processed we can get, the better off we are. So yeah.
And this has a.
Oh, you heard me gasp.
I know.
Okay,
I left it in there though. I have one dish that I prepare with that. Maddie loves the little scotcheroo type of thing, so we make those once in a while. And I don't have a recipe with a substitute.
Well, we know that corn syrup is a high fructose product, and yes, you're aware of it. What's helpful to me, and the reason why we're doing this exercise, is when I see what it is that your family likes to eat, I can come up with nutritious substitutes, and the only way I'm going to know is if I know.
Right.
So I look at.
We left it alone.
Yep,
so
excellent.
And I'm very conscientious. I'm somebody who is very conscientious. I know when I buy that, it's not the best thing. But we're not using it every week by any means. But once in a while, that's a little thing we whip up, and that's the ingredient that we use. So.
And I can support that, because there are certainly times that we're not feeding necessarily our tummies. Sometimes we're feeding our souls.
Right.
And that once in a while, And if she's been sick and she's feeling better and we're celebrating, so we're going to have some scotcheroos. Well, let's just do it. Yeah, no problems here. You've got I haven't seen any breakfast cereal. A lot
of oatmeal.
Okay.
Yeah, and Maddie, she's pretty good with her. We're not too many junky types of cereals, but she likes oatmeal in the morning as well. So we make that a lot, or like a cream of wheat, and then sometimes she has the dry cereal as well, or a muesli.
And the nice thing is, one of our sections or one of our modules will be breakfast foods, and I can show you how to make your own cereal, which is wonderfully nutritious. You can change it to suit the flavor tastes of everyone in the family.
Okay.
Some granolas, we can do muesli, we can do all kinds of things.
Breakfast is kind of the one you get in a routine. It's just like
Right.
you do the same 2 or 3 things all the time, and that's probably the most boring kind of meal of the day.
And yet it's the thing we start the day with.
Right, and it's one of your most important meals of the day.
Exactly. So that will be. I'm making a note to myself that'll be need to be one of our
Some
earlier
good granola
modules.
recipes.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for sharing this with
You're
me.
welcome.
I think I
And
understand.
everybody else out there. That's all right. I think I'm pretty average, everyday kind of person. I'm sure a lot of people are in the same boat.
You are above average. I can guarantee that.